Now that we are familiar with the data set, we are ready to load it. So let us look at some line of codes that will allow us to do that. First of all, in this line of code, an Excel file by the name of Iris that contains a data set is being read into a data frame by making use of the read Excel function offered in the pandas library. Many such functions are available in the pandas library that allows us to load data from various file types into a data frame. In this case here, we are dealing with an Excel file, so we are making use of the read Excel function. But let us say if our data was contained into a CSV file, then we would have made use of the read_CSV function. And similarly, if the data set was inside an HTML file or a JSON file, then we would have made use of the read HTML or read JSON functions. So here, this line of code is loading our data into a data frame, and that data frame we have named it as iris_data. Now that we have loaded our data, we can take a look at our data frame as well. Here to the iris data frame, we have applied the head function, which allows us to see the first 5 rows of the data set, as you can see here. Now by default, this function displays the first 5 rows only, but let's say you want to see the first 10 rows. Then you'll have to pass in the number here, and the choice of number is arbitrary. You can also take a look at the first 20 rows as well. So that's how this function works. So here we can see what kind of values these columns are having. We can make out that the first 5 columns are numeric in nature and the last column is categorical in nature. That is, it is having string values. Okay, so this is the use of the head function. It allows us to peek at our data to make sure that everything is alright. Now that we have loaded our data, we make use of the info function here, as you can see. By running this function, you will be able to see the data set's structure, or I should say the data frame structure, including the data types of each column and any missing values. So let us break down this information. The first line here indicates that the variable iris data is a data frame object. As you can see here, to the iris data frame, we have applied the info function, and the first line suggests that it is a data frame. That is, it verifies that okay, this iris data variable is actually a data frame. Okay, after that, this is the next line, range index. This line shows that the data frame has 150 rows with the index ranging from 0 to 149. So here the information about the rows is given. After that, in the next line, the information about the columns is given. That is, it tells us that in this particular data frame, there are 6 columns that we have already seen here, that there are 6 columns. First 5 are numerical in nature and the last one is categorical in nature. And then again here in this part, in this whole part, the name of the column and their non-null count and their data type is given. For example, let's check out this column, sepal length centimeter. Okay, so here the name of the column is given, and then the non-null count is given. That says that there are 150 non-null values in this column. And then the data type of that column is also given, that is float. That verifies that okay, the data type assigned to this column is correct as per our visualization of the data set here. Also, you can notice here that sepal width centimeter column is having 149 non-null values. That means that there is one missing value in this data set. So by making use of this info function, you can actually check out whether the columns are assigned the correct data type or if there are any missing values in them. After that, here it is kind of a summary of the data types of the columns. It here suggests that there are 4 columns that are having float data type. As you can see here, the sepal length to petal width columns are having a float data type. And after that, there is one column called ID, which is integer in nature, and there is one column that is object in nature, that is categorical in nature. Next, in the last line, you can see here that this line shows the approximate memory usage of the data frame. Here you can see that the memory that it is taking is 7.2 KB. By making use of the info function, you can see that it's a great way to check if any columns have any missing values or if any data type conversions are needed. By making use of this one function, you can check out a whole lot of things. But this is not the only way by which you can check out about the columns and the rows. Let's just see how else we can do the same thing. Here we have printed the number of rows in the data set and the number of columns in it by making use of the shape function. So here, as you can see, let's just check it out. When you make use of the shape function, it provides you with the dimensions of the data frame. That is, on running this code, you can see that we get a tuple containing the number of rows and columns. So here we are just indexing these values in the relevant print statements and printing it out. So this is how we can check out the number of rows and columns in the data set. We can either make use of the info function or of the shape function to achieve that. These are, you can say, the first steps in data exploration journey, and they help us to understand the structure, size and initial contents of the data set. Remember here in this section here that it is important to have the data set file accessible and double check for any errors in the file name or path. Also, please note that in this case, I have only provided the name of the file to the function instead of its full path, because my Jupyter notebook that I am working on and the data file are in the same directory. So this should suffice. But in case your data file or either the Jupyter notebook that you are working on is in different directories, that is, they are not in the same directory, then you should provide the full path of the data file here, and please make sure that it is correct. Otherwise, you will be facing errors. So now that we have loaded our data set and had a peek at it and its structure, we are ready to move to the next part, that is exploratory data analysis.